let's start with the chanting.
Yadidam chattari purisa yugani
spend a couple of minutes maintaining the mindfulness in our physical body and the breathing process. Understanding your posture, the way you are seated. Gently closing your eyes. Taking a few deep inhalations and exhalations, some long, mindful and gentle breaths, releasing any tension and negative energies from your body, making yourself very comfortable and relaxed. Experiencing each breath throughout the body, bringing your total attention to your inner experience. Observing the incoming and outgoing breath with present moment, silent awareness. Relaxing your body and calming the mind with each breath. Letting go of the past, letting go of the future, gently allowing yourself to be here and now in the present moment. Breathing in, breathing out. So, welcome back to our Monday evening Sutta discussion. So today I selected the Indriya Bhãvanã Sutta, the development of the faculties. If you can remember, we had a Sutta discussion on the Sakunaki Sutta. Do you remember the story about the little bird and the big bird? Right? Yeah, so taking that small, simple little story, Buddha explained the teachings of the value, the benefits of staying within one's own territory, the domain, without going into the other's domain, which is the domain of the Mara, the evil one. So we explained what this Mara means in the Dhamma. If we can simply take it as the negativities or the suffering, how we may get into suffering, we may experience these negativities as a result of going away from our own domain. So we explained the other's domain or the Mara's domain to be what?
Bad. Alright, it was anything other than the 4 foundations of mindfulness, right?
Very close. That was the indulgence of the sensual pleasures. So that is the other's domain, or the Mara's domain, the evil one's domain. So if anyone finds indulgence in these sensual pleasures, everything that we experience through our senses, these sensual experiences, if we get caught up in that, the emotions within these experiences, one may easily get into these negativities, suffering as the eventual result. But instead of going away from one's own territory or straying in others' domain, if we can maintain our awareness, or if we just move around within our own territory, which means the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The mindfulness on the body, the physical reality, the mindfulness on the Vedana, the sensual reality, the mindfulness on the mind itself as the Chittanupassana, the mindfulness on the Dhamma, the thoughts, or the conditional reality as the Dhammanupassana. If one maintains this mindful awareness, mindful comprehensions within all our experiences, we may be able to keep and experience the peace and harmony within. So we explained what simply Lord Buddha explains as our own territory, that is to be our the body and mind actually. We gain from our parents, the gochara, the word used in that sutta was the gochara, the ancestral domain to be this body and mind. So this is where the real 4 foundations of mindfulness is directly, clearly explained by the Buddha. So how we should maintain this mindful awareness as we go through these experiences. So importantly, Buddha does not teach us not to experience these sensual experiences, but to maintain this mindful awareness as we interact with these sensual experiences of the world through these senses, right? So as we live as human beings, when we have all these faculties, sensual faculties, there's no way for us to avoid that. So this is what we call the living, right? To live means to exactly communicate with the external world through our senses, right? So that is all about practicing the mindfulness. The 4 foundations of mindfulness is all about that practice. So I selected this discourse today, the Indriya Bhãvanã Sutta, the development of the faculties. So that is exactly, directly teaching us about how we should train our faculties, how we should interact with the sensual experiences in the right way, in the practice of the Buddha's teachings. Okay, so let's go through the sutra. I have heard that on one occasion the Blessed One was staying among the Kajangala in the bamboo grove. Then the young Brahman, Uttara, the student of Parasari, went to the Blessed One and on arrival exchanged friendly greetings and courtesies. After this exchange of courteous greeting, he sat to one side. So this is the normal way of meeting the Buddha, exchanging the greetings, the courteous greetings, the usual dialogue with the Buddha afterwards. As he was sitting, this young Brahman, the name of this person was Uttara. He was actually about 16 years old, as I remember. He was very well versed in the Brahman teachings. As a Pandit, as a very intellectual person, he comes to the Buddha to visit him. Okay. As he was sitting there, the Blessed One said to him, Uttara, the name of that boy, does the Brahman Parasari, the teacher of that young student, is Parasari. He was a very well-known teacher, Brahman, during that time. So Buddha asked Uttara, does the Brahman Parasari teach his followers to development of the faculties? So Buddha asked this question. If his teacher, Parasari, teaches his followers the development of faculties, then he said, yes, Master Gautama, the Buddha, he does. And then Buddha asked him, and how does he teach his followers development of the faculties? So Buddha wanted to know the way his teacher Parasari teaches the development of the faculties. Then there is the case where one does not see forms with the eye, okay, or hear sounds with the ear. In a trance of non-perception, that is how the Brahmin Parasari teaches his followers the development of the faculties. So the way he explained how his teacher Parasari teaches the development of faculties is to be not to see forms through the eyes, not to hear the sounds from the ears, like that, which means not to communicate with the external world through the senses, basically, right? Which simply means to live like a blind person, to live like a deaf person, right? That's what it simply means. So that is how the development of the faculties is taught by that well-reputed master Parasari. Okay. That being the case, Uttara, then a blind person will have developed faculties. So Buddha brought that argument or the point, right? So then a blind person will have developed the faculties. So if you can imagine a blind person or a blind person by birth has a fully developed faculty of eye, right? So what is the development of faculties there? And a deaf person will have developed faculties. So similarly, according to the words of the Brahman Parasari, so according to his teachings, that's what it means, right? To be deaf, to be blind would be the development of the faculties. For a blind person does not see forms with the eye, and a deaf person does not hear sounds with the ear. So that's what it simply means. When this was said, the young Brahmin Uttara sat silent and abashed. His shoulders slumped, his head down, brooding at a loss for words. The Blessed One, noticing that Uttara was sitting silent and abashed, his shoulders slumped, his head down, brooding at a loss for words, said to Venerable Ananda. So when Buddha explained that to him, right, if a blind, in that case, the blind person or a deaf person to be totally developed in these faculties according to the teacher. So with that explanation, the young boy, the Uttara, was very silent. He had no words to say, right? So he was like very desperate there. Right? He had to maintain the silence there. He was very uncomfortable. And then seeing that transformation in Uttara, that young boy, spoke to Venerable Ananda, who was sitting next to him. Ananda, the development of the faculties that the Brahman Parasari teaches his followers is one thing, but the unexcelled development of the faculties in the discipline of a noble one is something else entirely. So Buddha says to Venerable Ananda that the Parasariya's development of the faculties is to be one way, but in the discipline of the Buddha or noble one is a totally different one, something else. Now is the time, O Blessed One. Now is the time, O one well gone, for the Blessed One to teach the unexcelled development of the faculties in the discipline of the noble one. Having heard the Blessed One, the monks will remember it. So Venerable Ananda invited the Buddha, saying that it was the best time for the Buddha to explain the noble development of the faculties in the discipline of the Buddha's teachings. So he invited the Buddha. So by listening to his teachings, monks, his followers will remember it. In that case, Ananda listened and paid close attention. So we can see that now he is not really addressing the visitor, Uttara, right? Maybe he is still confused or upset or uncomfortable there. So therefore, the Lord Buddha is directly addressing the Venerable Ananda. He was the chief attendant of the Buddha. So Venerable Ananda was always very close to the Buddha in most of the audiences. So the Lord Buddha addressed the Venerable Ananda, listen and pay close attention. I will speak. And then he said, as you say, Lord, when Ananda responded to the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One said, now how Ananda, in the discipline of a noble one, is there the unexcelled development of faculties. There is the case where, when seeing the form with the eye, so this is very important, this part, this is where Buddha explains about the development of the faculty of eye first. Okay? When seeing the form with the eye, there arises in a monk what is agreeable, what is disagreeable, what is agreeable and disagreeable. He discerns that this agreeable thing has arisen in me. This disagreeable thing, this agreeable and disagreeable thing has arisen in me. And that is compounded, grass, dependently co-arisen. But this is peaceful, this is exquisite equanimity with that. The arisen agreeable thing, disagreeable thing, agreeable and disagreeable thing ceases, and equanimity takes its stance. That has a man with good eyes, having closed them. Okay, so let's wait there. So the first part of that explanation, in this noble discipline, in the practice of the Dhamma, so you can simply recall the practicing of the four foundations of mindfulness. So when we practice the mindfulness on the faculty of eye, when we happen to see things through our eyes, this is how the Dhamma practitioner maintains the mindful awareness on that particular experience. Okay, so that person is contemplating with the faculty of eye. When seeing things, he is aware of how these different sensations are arising there, right? When we see things, sometimes pleasant sensations arises with it. Right? Sometimes unpleasant sensations arise within our experience. Right? So this is a very practical experience, as we can see. So when we see things from our eyes, sometimes we get attached to them. If they are pleasant, if they are so comfortable, soothing, enjoyable, so we simply get attached to them. So that is the agreeableness within that experience, right? So that is the pleasant sensation. So these different sensations arise. There arises in a mind what is agreeable and what is disagreeable. Sometimes unpleasant sensation, right? Sometimes we don't like what we see, so we want to look away, right? We don't want to see them, that we are not happy to see them. So sometimes these disagreeable feelings, sensations arise in our experience. So depending on our past experience mostly, if we happen to be unhappy when we saw these images, these forms in the past, we go through probably the same unpleasant feelings and sensations upon them, right? So this is what that person is aware of. And sometimes the both, what is agreeable and disagreeable, right? Sometimes these both sensations, both feelings are there, these pleasant and unpleasant sensations, or that person is aware of these both feelings or sensations at the same time. Okay, and he discerns that this agreeable thing has risen in me. So that means that person is completely mindfully aware that this pleasant or agreeable sensation has arisen in me or it is present now, right? And this disagreeable or agreeable or disagreeable, these different types of sensations, when they are present, that person mindfully aware of that experience. And that is compounded, grasped, dependently co-arising. Okay, so that is a very special way of looking at these experiences, these feelings or sensations, these different types of sensations, right? Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral even, or agreeable, disagreeable, and both agreeable and disagreeable. Whatever these sensations, feelings that is being experienced, to be compounded, that experience to be compounded. So that explanation is very important here. That is compounded and grasped. So the compounded means, what does it mean to be compounded? Something to be compounded. Compounded means coming together, right? It's conditional, what we call conditions. It is experienced as a result of many conditions coming together. That is the compounded reality there, which means it was not there before. When these necessary, before these necessary things come together, that experience was not there, right? So when it is arising, that person mindfully reflects that whatever this experience is there, it is compounded, it is conditioned, and therefore it to be gross, is grossing. So that is a very common characteristic of any of these sensual pleasures, right? It is not subtle. It is very gross, very grossy, right? Because it is in very superficial level, right? In the superficial level pertaining to this sensual experience. So therefore, it is not subtle. There's no any peace in it, right? So it's a very common thing, as we can see, when we find indulgence in this sensual experience. When we want to gratify these senses, there's always arousal, right? Excitement, or thrilling experience. That's what people actually get attached to. People find that to be very exciting, right? Therefore, there's no any subtlety there. There's no any peace in it. There's no any tranquility in this sensual pleasure. So you can simply imagine how people enjoy their life, right? With so many things, with these conditional things, worldly conditions. So that's why it is said that all these sensual experiences to be grossly and dependently co-arising, of course, right? It comes to be as a result of many conditions coming together, right? The causes and effects, reality, the causality, what we call. So that person mindfully, rationally reflects on that nature in this sensual experience. Okay, but this is peaceful. This is again exquisite, right? Equanimity. So that means when that reflection is there, that mindful awareness is there, that person does not take that sensual pleasure to be permanent. That person does not take that sensual pleasure to be that much important, reflecting on the natural condition there, reflecting on its compounded conditional reality, right? Its impermanence. That person does not get attached to it. So that means that person detaches the mind from this sensual experience. So when it is done, that person finds the peace within. So that person experiences how peaceful it is, right? So that is what we call the equanimity. So the equanimity is the very special word in the teachings, right? It is the peaceful, most peaceful state of mind without going into either directions, towards the pleasant or unpleasant, right? So this is a very common experience that in the nature of human experience, we most of the time exist in either direction. If we want to be happy, we want to go to its maximum level, right? In our excitement, in our pleasure, happiness, that thrilling experience. That is the normal attitude. So when things do not happen the way we want to, when unpleasant things happen, people go to the other opposite direction, the unhappiness, all the negativities. So we don't find any peace, tranquility, comfort in either direction there, right? So therefore in the spiritual practice, it is explained that to be in a kind of between level, to be very peaceful, very calming, very tranquil, right? So this is a very subtle explanation in the Dhamma, right? As we always find the positive sides, positive experience in these sensual pleasures, right? Positive things, right? We don't like to discriminate that, right? So there's a very subtle explanation for that, you know. As people are always want to be happy, to be thrilled, excited in this sensual experience, in the worldly sense, in the worldly level, it is positive, it is good, it's okay. But in the realm of the spirituality, you know, when we practice meditation or when we talk about samadhi, we see that sensual pleasure is nothing but a disturbance of this system, this body and mind. Why do we say that? Why do we say that? You know, in the process of gratifying these senses, you know, our sensual experiences, you know, there's always a tension. You know, when we see something, when we hear something, we always want to have it. We always want to experience it. That possessive feeling is there. You know, this is a very normal nature. If you like something, you want it. You want to have it. You know, you find the ownership within that experience. So then, such a tension is created there, right? It's a disturbance in your system, therefore. So to let go of that tension, anxiety, stress, we go for it, or either we run away from it, right? To be in the comfortable level, position, right? So therefore, in the sensual experience, we can see there's a tension, there's a discomfort in our system in the beginning. So then we want to work through it, you know, to let go of that tension. We do certain things. Right? This is how we please our senses all the time. So therefore, even in the psychology, Sigmund Freud actually explains that sensual pleasure, instead of just a healthy happiness, it is just a disturbance of your system. You know, because the real peace, when you experience the equanimity, when your mind is not excited in such a way within this compounded conditional experience, that is to be the most peaceful and healthy level of experience. So this is what exactly Buddha also explains it. You know, seeing that reality without getting attached to that, seeing its impermanent nature, its conditional, dependently originating reality, that person does not take these things to be permanent, as something agreeable, you know, to get hold onto them. So that person maintains such a peaceful awareness, knowing its reality, right? So we can see how much introspection, inward attention, how much deep reflections, mindful reflections are applied there, right? When we say something, this is just one faculty Buddha is explaining here, right? So, this is what Buddha explains about the faculty of eye. Okay, with that, the rising agreeable thing, disagreeable thing, agreeable and disagreeable thing ceases. How they see it? As a result of seeing that truth, that reality, that conditional, compounded reality, they disappear because of our perception is changed there, right? As we see how these things happen exactly as they are, as a result of seeing these agreeable or disagreeable things as a compounded thing, as a created thing, that person let go of these different conditions. So they happen to cease right there as a result of seeing that reality, that truth. And equanimity takes its stance, right? So this is an example afterwards. Just as a man with good eyes, having closed them, might open them, or having opened them, might close them. That is how quickly, how rapidly, how easily, no matter what it refers to, the arisen, agreeable thing, disagreeable thing, agreeable and disagreeable thing ceases, and equanimity takes its stance. In the discipline of a noble one, this is called the unexcelled development of the faculties with regard to the forms cognizable by the eye. So this example is very important to understand, So this is how it explains how we are supposed to maintain the mindfulness in that process. How quickly, how rapidly, how fast we need to do that processing, internal, mindful, intellectual processing when we experience these sensual objects, sensual experiences, right? The example is just as a man with good eyes, having closed them, might open them, or having opened them, might close them. How quickly we can do that, right? How a healthy person can do that, closing and opening the eyes. How quickly, how rapidly, right? We don't even notice that, how quickly it happens, right? So that is how one should maintain the proper right mindfulness when we experience the objects or the forms through our eyes. So what is the message there with that rapidity? What it has to do with in this practice, you think? Why would the emphasize such a rapid engagement in that process? Any idea?
Because it compounds. So
Yeah.
if you hold on to that sensation, it'll grow. So being mindful and quickly understanding that the sensation is an external input,
Right.
helps you dissipate, or I guess be equanimous, right?
Right. Yeah, the real point there actually, if you are not maintaining such an awareness, such a mindfulness, if you miss that even for a single moment, these negativities or the Mara can sneak in. That's the point, right? That very simple, very short period of time is enough for us to misunderstand or get caught up in these illusions of emotions, otherwise. That's the point. That's why we need to maintain such powerful, persistent, unbreakable, accurate, mindful awareness in that process. So how can you imagine what a meditation is that? Right? That is exactly what we call the vipassana or the insight meditation. What type of awareness, mindful reflection has to be there. So that is what we mean by this, the rapidity, that speed of maintaining that processing, not to get caught up in any illusion, any wrong ideas, misunderstandings, wrong interpretations. It can happen if you are not maintaining such mindfulness. That is the idea. So then furthermore, when hearing a sound with the ear, there arises in a monk what is agreeable, what is disagreeable, what is agreeable and disagreeable. He discerns that this agreeable thing has arisen in me. This disagreeable and disagreeable thing has arisen in me. And that is compounded, gross, dependently arisen. But this is peaceful. So similarly, experiencing the sounds, when we hear the sounds through our ears. Again, similarly, agreeable and disagreeable or all sensations, feelings arise within ourselves. So similarly, that person mindfully reflects on how these experiences is created as compounded, conditional reality, dependently co-arisen. So similarly, when that process is seen as the truth, as a reality, that person again maintains such a peaceful, mindful, equanimous state of mind. So again, without going into those extremes, towards the positive or negative in this grossy level of experience through the sensual pleasure. So that person finds the equanimity. So with that, the arisen agreeable thing, disagreeable thing, agreeable and disagreeable thing ceases, and equanimity takes its stance. So the second example Buddha says, just as a strong man might easily snap his fingers, that is how quickly, how rapidly, how easily, no matter what it refers to, the arisen agreeable thing, disagreeable thing, arisen and disagreeable thing ceases. So it is just like a healthy person, a strong person snapping his fingers. How quickly? How rapidly? Right? How fast? So that is the way to maintain that mindful reflection on this sensual experience. So in such a way, similarly, these conditional experiences are going to go away as a result of that wise mindful reflection. So the mind is equanimous, peaceful, in the upekkha state in such a rapid way, as a continuous experience, as we can see, right? That person maintains such a steady level of practice, right? So the inner peace, tranquility and harmony is experienced there, right? Furthermore, when smelling an aroma with the nose, so similar thing. So when we smell things from our nose, pleasant and unpleasant, both sensations arise, right? So similarly, that person reflects on that sensation, these different types of sensations to be conditional, compounded, and dependently co-arisen. So when that reality is seen, that person's mind gets detached from these different types of sensations. And equanimity, the peaceful mind gets its stance. So the example there, just as the drops of water roll off a gently sloping lotus leaf and do not remain there. That is how quickly, how rapidly, how easily, no matter what it refers to, there is an agreeable thing. So that example is very obvious. In the teachings, we see that example in several places. When these water drops are in the right on the lotus leaves, right? They are very delicate, very smooth surface. They don't stay there. They easily slips away. They easily slip away from the lotus leaf. So, in such a speed, in such a rapid movement, we maintain our mindful awareness. So this is about smelling aromas with our nose. So we maintain such mindful awareness in that faculty. So there is the faculty of the development of the faculty of the nose. Furthermore, when tasting a flavor with the tongue, so similarly, when we taste different tastes from our tongue, right? Again, pleasant or unpleasant sensation arise. Agreeable and disagreeable sensations arise. So there also the person reflects, mindfully observes those experiences to be compounded, conditioned, dependently co-arisen. So seeing that reality, as a result of seeing that compounded reality, that mind gets into the peaceful state without getting attached to it or averse to it, right? Without taking them to be so important. Seeing that the grossy level, right? So that mind becomes very peaceful and tranquil as a result of seeing that compounded, impermanent nature of these sensations. Furthermore, when touching the tactile sensation with the body, there arises in a monk what is agreeable, what is disagreeable, what is agreeable and disagreeable. Again, with the tactile sensations with our body, the feelings, sensations in our body, as we get in touch with different objects, right? Again, pleasurable or unpleasurable, pleasant or unpleasant, agreeable or disagreeable sensations arise. So, there also that person maintains such mindful awareness, deeply reflecting on the nature of this compounded, conditional reality, dependently co-arisen reality, and detach the mind from this sensual experience. So mind gets into the peaceful level, to the tranquil state of mind. So the example there, just as a strong man might let 2 or 3 drops of water fall onto an iron pan heated all day. Slow would be the falling of the drops of water, but quickly would vanish and disappear. That is how quickly, how rapidly, how easily, no matter what, it refers to the arisen agreeable thing, disagreeable thing, ceases. So that rapidly, as a result of maintaining such continuous, unbreaking, persistent mindfulness, our mind also gets into the peaceful state, tranquil state, that quickly, that rapidly, as a result of maintaining that powerful, accurate, sharp, mindful awareness. Right? Furthermore, when cognizing an idea with the intellect, so when it is about the thoughts, when different ideas, thoughts, mental conditions arise in our mind, there are also experiences, agreeable and disagreeable feelings, sensations, or the both, mixed feelings or sensations, right? So there are also these mental conditions are reflected as a compounded, conditional, grossly experience, dependently co-arisen experience, right? So as a result of that reflection, that person's mind does not get involved unnecessarily, getting attached to others to them. So this is the normal attitude of our human experience, right? Towards our agreeable or disagreeable feelings, and we eventually end up in frustration, disappointment, worries, fear, and everything. So this is the way to let go of that unnecessary negativities within these sensual experiences. So this is very, very precise, very deep and subtle explanation of how we should maintain the proper mindfulness in a meditative level, right? So when it comes to the mind, it's very subtle, even more subtle, right? It can be practically seen as a comfortable thing to reflect on our sensual faculties like eye, ear, nose, tongue, and the body. But the way it is explained seems to be very complicated, very deep and subtle. I don't know what you think. Commonly we can see that how difficult it is for us to maintain such awareness, mindful attention, wise reflection even within these superficial faculties, because that is not our normal attitude, normal way of experiencing these sensual faculties, right? And how fast, how quickly, how rapidly these things are processed even within our system, right? In connection with everything, every condition, every single part of the system, right? Even though we talk about this physical eye, it is not just the eye that sees everything, right? There's a long process behind our eye, right? There are so many different parts. The faculty of eye is a very complicated object. How we see things through that physical organ. When you think about it, it's fascinating creation of the world, the nature, to be able to see things through our eyes, right? Even when you think about, even when we move our eyes, even when someone is running, we see the same person without changing the image, right? It's a very complicated science, biology there, how this faculty of eye is functioning, giving us this perception of the world, what we see out there. So it's very complicated. Even behind that, the brain, the optical nerve, right? Different related part of our brain to process what we see through our eye. So we can see how these things are connected in that process, right? So when we talk about the pleasant and unpleasant, agreeable and disagreeable sensations, this is where we experience the different levels, different kinds of hormones in our blood system, right? Depending on our reaction in our brain, how we process these things according to our past experience. If you get attached to them, if you find any pleasant, pleasurable sensation there in the past, same type of hormone is released in our brain to the blood system. So it carries the same signal throughout the body. That's how we feel it in all our body, right? All of our body, we feel the same thrilling, exciting sensation, and it is similar with the unpleasant sensation. So we see that process. So this is exactly what Buddha talks about. The conditional reality, compounded reality means that it is not just one single condition, right? So eventually we experience or we reflect this compounded, conditional, complicated reality. The eventual result of these pleasant or unpleasant experience to be compounded and impermanent, which simply means it does not belong to us, which is the anatta, right? The teachings of non-self is clearly implied there, in that reality. So beyond our control, without our control, these conditions are taking place, giving us these different types of sensations and experiences. So when the reality is seen, our mind gets into the peaceful level, the tranquil state of experience, without getting attached to or averse to these sensual experiences. So when it comes to the mind, it can be very subtle. It can be very complicated. We hardly see our thoughts, our feelings, even objectively experience our emotions. As a result of being carried away by these emotions, right? So the mindfulness is the key here. Mindfulness is the faculty, the spiritual faculty that allows us to deeply, mindfully reflect on these things, right? So to observe the mind, its nature, its compounded reality, such a deep, such a sharp, accurate mindfulness is needed, right? So we can understand when we think about what we experience in our mind in this practice. And how is one a person in training, someone following the way? There is the case where, when seeing a form with the eye, there arises in a man what is agreeable, disagreeable, agreeable and disagreeable. He feels horrified, humiliated, disgusted with the arisen, agreeable, disagreeable, agreeable and disagreeable thing. This part is very essential here, very important, this message, what Buddha explains, right? Take a look at it again. And how is a person in training, someone following the way? There is the case where, when seeing a form with the eye, there arises in a man what is agreeable, disagreeable, agreeable and disagreeable, right? Within that experience, he feels horrified, humiliated, disgusted with the arisen different types of sensations. So that means, in that practice, as a result of seeing that truth, seeing that reality as it is, if you simply take these things to be very permanent, agreeable, pleasant, joyful, praising, taking these things to be very permanent, taking these experience for granted, that attitude to be very humiliated, that person gets really disgusted by that reality. I don't know if you get that message there. It is just like a deception. You are getting deceived by this conditional illusion. So for a spiritual person, as a Dharma practitioner, as a very intellectual person, it is not worth to get caught up by these illusions, this compounded conditioned reality. That is what it implies here, right? Feels horrified, humiliated, disgusted within these conditional experiences. If you get attached to them, if you get averse to them, it's a very wrong attitude in the explanation of the Dhamma. It's very, I would say that to be very primitive, very low level of existence. In the spiritual understanding, don't misunderstand me here. That's not the case in the normal superficial world, right? But in this noble discipline, noble understanding, practice, these sensual pleasures, this if one gets attached to or averse to any of these compounded, conditional, co-arisen, agreeable or disagreeable feelings or sensations, that is to be very low level of existence. uninstructed, uneducated, unspiritual, or not noble. That's what it means. Okay? This is how one is a person in training, someone following the way. And how is one a noble one with develop faculties? This is very important. Okay. There is the case where when seeing a form with the eye, there arises in a man what is agreeable, what is disagreeable, what is agreeable and disagreeable. If he wants, he remains percipient of loathsomeness in the presence of what is not loathsome. Okay? If he wants, he remains percipient of unloathsomeness in the presence of what is loathsome. If he wants, he remains percipient of loathsomeness in the presence of what is not loathsome and what is. If he wants, he remains percipient of unloathsomeness in the presence of what is loathsome and what is not. If he wants, in the presence of what is loathsome and what is not, cutting himself off from both, he remains equanimous, alert and mindful. So this is a very powerful message according to this sutra. So this is how you kind of gain the control over your sensual experience without getting caught up by these negative emotions, wrong understanding, misperceptions. This is how you gain the control. In not being controlled by these things, you take the real control of what you are going through, what you are experiencing. So what that part, that text simply means here, for an example, there are people who are really scared of seeing the blood. Right? Have you seen? I don't know if anyone of you is like that. But for some people, it's not. There's nothing to be scared of at all, right? Like if you think about a doctor or a surgeon, they are always interacting with their experience. It's not scary anymore, right? So we can see the difference, maybe by nature or by understanding what is happening there, or really getting used to it, being more open to it, right? Getting connected with that nature. That person is not scared by that. So in that way, when you reflect on these sensual pleasures in this mindful way, in this spiritual, intellectual way, the difference here, one thing that you experience can be very disgusting for someone. But as a result of having this control, you can maintain a positive attitude of that if you want, right? Why? Because you see that disagreeable or agreeable feeling is a compounded thing, right? Conditional experience, right? So in that case, you can be enjoying sometimes what people are discussing. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So that is the simple idea. So similarly, if it is the other way around, there can be things that people are really praising, enjoying, looking at them positively. But if you want, you can maintain the opposite attitude, right? You don't find that to be very enjoyable or thrilling, exciting, So, or you can maintain a peaceful mind, equanimous mind, being in between. So this is exactly how Buddha explains the gaining of the control of your faculties, what you are experiencing in your faculties, without getting attached to, averse to them. becoming an expert, very well versed, very well trained in this discipline, mindfulness practice, you maintain whatever the condition you want to maintain in your mind. Right? That is the control. Okay? So it's a very subtle thing to understand. Do you have any questions about it? So about the idea there? Is it clear? Yes?
I think it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah? Okay? Right. I'm trying to think about another example. As an example, take this body itself, right? So this body, you can look at it different way, right? Different way. Sometimes when you see the reality of this body, you can get really disturbed by it, right? When you reflect on the true nature of your physical body, as it explains as a meditation in the Dhamma, Asubhanupassana, to reflect on the repulsiveness of the body. By nature, this body is not a pleasant experience. If you do not take a shower for a couple of days, if you don't brush your teeth, so if you do not clean your body, that's the reality, right? To be very realistic, we know how unpleasant it is, right? Even without going that far, when you think about the inside of your body, the nature, how disgusting, how ugly, how dangerous even it is. When you think about the working of this body, your brain, your neurons, how subtle these things. If a simple wiring goes wrong, that can be the end, right? So people can get really scared about it when you get to know that reality, But when you deeply, mindfully understand this is the nature of it, this is how it is, right? It is beyond my control, So when you know that, you don't get disturbed by it. You don't get disturbed by that experience. You accept it and let go, right? So that is through the real understanding, okay? So for the positive directions also, as I explained earlier, when people are really bombarding about these positive experiences, thrilling, happiness, pleasure, and all these things, when you know that, if you can remember the way I explained, the sensual pleasure is nothing but a disturbance of your body, according to the subtle explanation, according to the psychology and this spiritual explanation. So you look at it in a different perspective, different way, right? So you can detach yourself from that deceiving attitude, right? Which is the normal way of getting caught up in this normal human experience, right? So then the idea there is that you gain the control without getting controlled by the sensual pleasures or experience, okay? Okay, so the final thing, the last thing, this is how one is a noble one with developed faculties. Okay. So this is the development of the faculties in the Buddha's teachings. So you can see the difference now, right? The Uttara, the young Brahman, explained the development of the faculties to close the eyes, close your ears, similarly to all senses. But the way that Buddha explained the development of the faculties to be very systematic and very spiritual, very enlightening, right? There's an action, it's a practice. It's a practice. So Anand, I have taught you the unexcelled development of the faculties in the discipline of a noble one. I have taught you how one is a person in training, someone following the way. I have taught you how one is a noble one with developed faculties. Whatever a teacher should do, this is a very important part that Buddha shares. Whatever a teacher should do, seeking the welfare of his disciples out of sympathy for them, that I have done for you. Over there are the roads of trees. Over there are empty dwellings. Practice jhana, ananda. Don't be heedless. Don't later fall into regret. This is our message to you all. That is what the Blessed One said. Gratified, Venerable Ananda, delighted in the Blessed One's words. So this is a kind of powerful statement that Buddha makes, explaining this sutra with the development of the faculties. Like Buddha says, I have taught you the unexcelled development of the faculties in the discipline of a noble one. I have taught you how one is a person. I have taught you the entire path, entire discipline, the complete technique of getting rid of the suffering, getting rid of the Mara, getting rid of these unnecessary negativities. So I have taught you everything in that sense. That's what Buddha says, right? I have completely taught you the way, the complete development of the faculties. So therefore, these are the places for you, the root of a tree, empty houses, these places for you to practice this meditation, this mindful awareness. So you can imagine now, to maintain such an awareness, as we explained here, is not possible to maintain in a distractive world, place, in society, right? That's very practical understanding. When we have all these senses open, as we are interacting with the external world, with all these excitements, ups and downs and everything, it's very difficult to maintain such uninterrupted, persistent, mindful awareness. That's why Buddha recommends always to go to a suitable place, right? Peaceful place, where there are less disturbances, distractions. That supportive environment, atmosphere is needed for such practice. That is what Buddha says, right? So therefore, Buddha says, I have taught you everything. These are the places for you. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Don't let it to be regret later, right? Because he has completely taught the path, taught the technique. Therefore, get the best use of it in this valuable, precious human life. So this is what Buddha explains. So when Ananda was very happy. So you can see the connection between the Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and how this development of faculties are interconnected, going hand in hand. How we are supposed to maintain our mindfulness within this sensual experience. So this is the Indriya Bhãvanã Sutta. So I really like this sutra. It's very precise, directly connected to the clean, precise spiritual path towards the liberation, or the what we call the Nibbana peace. So it implies where we supposed to maintain our mindful awareness, our mindful reflection, right? Wise reflection in this practice. So where this whole practice leads to, right? Eventually, to protect our mind from the evils or the mara, the suffering, the negativities. And where we make the mistakes, this is also very important. Where we make the mistake in this process, not being mindful, not being wise in this process. So taking that responsibility individually, right? It is not created by anyone else there, our suffering. So we are responsible for maintaining that positive state through the practice. So that is the end of the discourse. Do we have any questions? Any comments?
Maybe explain it that way.
Mhm.
You see how far away we are from.
Right. Why do you feel that way? You feel you're so far away from this practice, in such a practice, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we all are. Right? We all are.
Let's say if you're watching a TV or something.
Yeah.
You don't want to stop, you keep going and going
Right,
and going
right,
and going.
right.
You know it's not true, but you're still watching it.
Okay.
It's like you can't stop.
But I think,
You know it's wrong, but
so, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
take that as an example, sometimes when you watch a movie, maybe when you watch a television, there are times you cry,
Yeah.
right? Which is very natural, right? Very common. So there are moments that you cry, but eventually what you come to know,
It's just acting. Exactly.
this is just a story.
Yeah.
This is just a drama. That is exactly what it means by being compounded, conditioned, grossy, right? That is exactly what we come to know. So then that crying is gone. Just by knowing that it is just a drama, it is just a movie on the screen. So that's the realization. So you don't really suffer, you don't really cry. That is to be very, very precise, exact with this explanation, this teaching. So it is even similar with the dreaming. We enjoy so many things in our dreams. So even we get really scared about the dreams, right? But what you realize when you wake up? What you realize when you wake up?
Oh, it was just a dream.
It was just a dream. That is the realization. Eventual realization. The suffering is gone. Illusion is gone. You see that, it was just an illusion. It was just an imagination. So suffering is no more. So this is exactly the spiritual awakening by seeing that truth, the reality. It is possible. The message is it is possible. This is possible. Buddha, the enlightened beings, did that. So as human beings, we all have that potential. So we can see that we apply that even in our day-to-day life, in a different levels though, right? So we have to turn that attention inward. That is the difference here. We always pay our attention to these external things, how we process.
It's hard because
Yeah.
if you want to eat, you want to find the most tastiest, and then you want to eat more of it, and you're eating more of it. It's hard, very hard.
Oh, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy because we have been so conditioned by that way of processing, experiencing, getting caught up by these.
Because you get awards for that. That is the best friend, and that is the best thing, and
Yeah,
then
there's no end.
no end. We
No
keep
end.
eating that
Exactly.
more and more because. it's the
But
best.
when you
Yeah.
have this kind of practice, you completely cut that off. That's how you gain the control. So in that experience, you can see these experiences are controlling you, right? What you see in the movies, in the newspapers, in the social medias, they are controlling us, right? Giving us all these impulses, our emotions, desires. So when you have this understanding, you take the control. You don't let these things control you. So their unimaginable stress, anxieties, suffering is gone, can be gone with that deep reflection, understanding. It is possible. It is possible. Otherwise, Buddha would not teach that. Otherwise, even enlightenment is not possible. You know, enlightenment is possible because this practice is possible for human being. You know, if you know the real path, the techniques, if you have the intention, interest, it is possible. You know, but we can see how it is done in a different levels. You know, as we are in a very superficial, conditional world, we find it to be very difficult, right? That's why from time to time we want to go on retreats, longer retreats, meditation time, to have more experience in it, to go very deep into that experience. So that is where you are going to really experience it. Anything else? Okay. So then that will be all for today. I don't have any other questions. So I hope you understood it. So take time to think about it and go through it, analyze it, try to experience it, see if you can get the deep messages there. It will be very helpful as we are practicing meditation, mindfulness. You know, we see the importance of it. Okay. All right. Thank you. All the blessings to you.